West Michigan, hundreds of miles away from dangerous Tornado Alley.
But if you don't think we're at risk, think again.
Some of the most violent and deadliest tornadoes have happened here.
It reminds me of a bombed-out city. I'm just astounded at the degree of destruction.
We're in a tornado drought unlike any in recorded history.
But don't fall asleep on Mother Nature. It's only a matter of time until we're hit with the big one.
The start of the second week of June, 1953. In Michigan, summer was just breaking out. But before sunset, one of the worst tornado outbreaks in our state's history would unfold. At 8:30 that night, a twister touched down at Webster and Coldwater Roads. The storm headed due east, straight for Beecher. A killer F5 twister.
You're dealing with extreme winds. I mean, this is a tiny percentage of all the tornadoes that occur in the world have wind speeds this strong.
Winds as high as 300 miles per hour, with a funnel cloud 8 football fields wide, leveling everything in sight.
It was terrible. All you saw was houses and trees gone.
I don't know what hit me that knocked me out, but I was glad because it was so frightening. And then I came to, I was sitting in the middle of a muddy road.
No warnings, no one to tell thousands of people what was coming.
You find homes that are totally and completely gone.
More than 800 were hurt, overwhelming hospitals. The staggering death toll, 116 people. Only one tornado in the U.S. has claimed more lives since.
So many people talked about what happened to them. Their home is gone. Their family is gone.
3 years later, the fury came to West Michigan. On the first Tuesday of April, thick humidity took hold and temperatures soared above 80 degrees. The perfect recipe for disaster.
That was an interesting situation because we had a Texas dry line come all the way up into Michigan. Instead of having just one separate cold front coming through, there were 2 separate fronts. That's something you see in Amarillo or Lubbock, Texas, and Oklahoma City, not up here in Michigan.
It started here, just south of one of West Michigan's crown jewels, Saugatuck's Oval Beach.
We had probably the strangest F4 tornado ever come off Lake Michigan. I mean, here it is spring. What's the water temperature now? In the low 40s, mid 40s at tops. And here you have this thunderstorm that's coming in off the lake. It's got all this cold air that's right above the water there, and yet still it manages to kick up an F4 tornado.
It traveled north along the beach. Among its first victims, the Saugatuck Lighthouse.
And we were seeing things floating in the air, and one of the things that we saw was a door.
The tornado becoming a powerful F4. On the ground for 9 miles, 4 homes were destroyed, and 7 people were hurt. It lifted just south of Holland. But the disaster was far from over.
It was just a big gray cloud. It looked to us like the woods was on fire.
In rural Bryceland, another funnel cloud touched down. It would soon become an F5, the strongest tornado ever recorded in West Michigan.
This tornado lost its updraft, and so it quickly died out. But then as the updraft continued, it started another tornado. And so quickly, this thing ramped up into a major tornado. In a matter of minutes, this went from being nothing to an F5 tornado.
It spun over the muck fields along Chicago Drive, covering everything and everyone in its path with mud. As it grew, it headed toward Hudsonville.
We got in the car. He
went behind the wheel, and I sat next to him, and my mother and my grandfather went in the back seat.
Betty Overbeek's family tried to outrun the monster storm.
And then the car was just picked up, and it was just, well, just flew through the air.
Her father and grandfather were killed.
I looked around, and my mother had been thrown quite a distance from us, but then she came walking towards me.
The devastation was just beginning. For the next hour, the storm, packing winds of up to 300 miles per hour, carved a 50-mile path through the heart of West Michigan. From the lakeshore to Montcalm County, Hudsonville and Standale were hardest hit.
The fastest wind anywhere in the world in 1956 went down Van Buren Street in Hudsonville, Michigan. The strongest wind anywhere in the world.
340 people were hurt. 17 lives were lost. The tornado finally lifted near Trufant. But for those who survived the storm's path, the nightmare would repeat a decade later. One of the worst tornado outbreaks in U.S. history. 55 twisters across 12 states, including 3 powerful F4 tornadoes in West Michigan.
It was warm, balmy weather.
It just made you want to get your shorts out and enjoy.
March in '65 was a very cold and snowy month. If I remember right, Grand Rapids had 36 inches of snow. It was like January around here. It hardly got out of the 30s during the entire month. So people weren't prepared for what was going to happen.
The first F4 touched down around dinner time near Allendale and headed northeast, causing damage for 35 miles, all the way to Cedar Springs. The worst was in Comstock Park, where 6 people died. The Swan Inn was leveled.
My dad went to the front door, and a wall of rain came at him, and he said, "Head for the tornado shelter." He turned around and looked back, and I was buried by 4 feet of cement blocks. Could not even see me. But then all of a sudden, those cement blocks went flying through the air.
As the storm chugged east toward Belmont, in this wooded area, it crossed the exact path of the 1956 Hudsonville-Standale tornado.
I talked to the guy there that owns that property at one point in time when I first came here. And he said, "I wonder whether I should move." And I said, "No, actually, you could stay here because I don't know of a single point in Michigan that's had 3 of them come by."
Just as the tornado lifted, twin F4 twisters were forming near the Indiana-Michigan border. The tornadoes would track within a mile of each other on an 80-mile path across Branch County, all the way to Ann Arbor.
There were 2 separate storms, and one followed the other. One came up, and then the second one came up afterwards and produced a tornado not very far away from where the first tornado was.
The long-track tornadoes in southern Michigan claimed 44 lives, pushing the total death toll for the day in our state over 50. West Michigan wasn't done yet with powerful F4 tornadoes.
A tornado a half-block wide had turned much of the town of Augusta into kindling wood.
The next one formed on a Saturday afternoon near the Kalamazoo airport and headed northeast. The village of Augusta took a direct hit.
I had the radio on, I didn't hear a thing. The house just started blowing up and I fell on the floor and the rug blew up over me.
I'm just thankful to be alive.
Amazingly, no one was killed. That day, 44 years ago, is the last time an F4 or stronger tornado touched down in Michigan.
Look at the stuff in the air. The leaves and stuff.
The last big one.
Look at that. Look at it moving.
Kalamazoo hit again. This time, downtown was in its path.
Keep in mind you're downtown. There's tall buildings here. There's tall trees in Bronson Park. You can't see what's going on, what's coming at you.
For 22 minutes, the F3 marched through one of the most populated areas in West Michigan.
We've had tornadoes go through downtown areas before, but it's unusual to get a strong one to go through a downtown area like this.
The majority of the injury downtown occurred at Gilmore's department store. The back wall of the 6-story building collapsed. 2 died there, many more were hurt.
I ran upstairs to the 2nd floor, And there I could see the top of the funnel and that jagged cloud. Then it was filled up quite a bit of the sky, and I could see all these things flying around inside the funnel.
5 people died. As the funnel lifted, 3 decades of violent storms suddenly came to a halt. It's now been more than 40 years since our state's last major tornado. Next, Storm Team 8 examines West Michigan's unprecedented tornado drought. And later, preparing for the big one. Whether you're in your car, at your home, or on the beach, we will show you the best place to take cover when nature's fury strikes again.
Welcome back to our Storm Team 8 special event. I'm meteorologist Matt Kirkwood with a look at our tornado drought. As a young child, fascinated with weather, I clung to my dad's stories when he would tell me he witnessed the EF5 tornado back in 1956 and also saw the 1965 tornado as well on Palm Sunday. Here I am, 50 years old, and I have yet to see a tornado in my lifetime. It's a national trend. Violent tornadoes have gone down in the past several decades, reaching a historic low back in 2018. That has also translated to Michigan. Notice a clustering in 1950s and 60s of the strongest tornadoes, and right around the turn of the century, we've only had 2 EF3 tornadoes in the past 20 years. That's remarkable. Now, the upside of this is less fatalities. Of course, stronger tornadoes, more likelihood of fatalities. 89% of Michigan tornado fatalities occurred in the 50s and 60s. We've only had 4 fatalities in the past 30 years directly related to a tornado. Other facts, the last EF4 tornado all the way back in 1977, the last EF3 tornado back in 2012 in Michigan, and the last one in West Michigan was back in the Potterville tornado in 2007. This begs the question, why is this happening? Well, we looked at the Pacific Ocean. About every 20 to 30 years, the Pacific Ocean changes its water temperature distribution. On the left side is a cool phase, on the right side is the warm phase. Why is this important? Well, you can see in the cool phase, La Niñas dominate. 50s, 60s, and 70s, that occurred. Then right around 1980, we saw a switch to El Niños and the warm phase. And you can see there's a direct correlation between El Niños and La Niñas. Less severe weather with El Niños, more severe weather with La Niñas. Why do we think that is? Well, the cooler air masses during a La Niña come across the eastern United States, across the continent, intersects with that warm moisture from the Gulf of Mexico. Stronger instability results in more strong thunderstorms and more severe weather and the potential of tornadoes as well. It's a cyclical thing, just a matter of time before West Michigan or the Pacific Ocean goes back into a cool phase and we may see our next big one. Ellen Baca is here now with a look at our most recent storms.
Now, if we look at West Michigan history, the most violent tornadoes like EF4s and EF5s, they all happened around this time of year, early spring. But recently, the only tornadoes that have done damage have happened in the summer. So few significant tornadoes have happened in the last decade that when looking back, we start with 2014. Late on a stormy Sunday night, July 6th, a rapidly developing tornado touched down near 64th and Burlingame in Byron Center. The twister stayed on the ground for a full 10 minutes, twisting up a trail over 6 miles long, injuring 6 people and damaging several structures. This was the first tornado to hit Kent County in 8 years. The following summer brought another direct hit, this time to Portland. The Ionia County town took a direct hit by the EF1 twister, and amazingly, no one died. But dozens of structures were seriously damaged, including 3 historic churches downtown. 2016 was the most active recently. On August 20th, a seemingly harmless storm rolled onto the beaches of Van Buren County, collided with a supercell cutting up through Branch and Cass, and soon the first of 6 tornadoes touched down, each EF0 or EF1 in strength. Amazingly, there were no fatalities. But damages ended up costing more than $4 million. The only historic storm since the Kalamazoo tornado in 1980 didn't actually spawn any tornadoes. The derecho of 1998 caused widespread damage across West Michigan. On May 31st at 4:45 in the morning, winds of 60 to 130 miles per hour came on shore, knocking over campers at Grand Haven State Park and destroying buildings in Spring Lake. The wide swath of destruction continued all the way across across the state. 4 were killed. $174 million in damages were done, and we all learned a lesson about the powerful force of West Michigan weather.
Next, Storm Team 8 prepares you for the big one. We'll show you the best places to take shelter, plus how new technology in the 24-hour tracking center will help us keep you safe when a warning is issued.
Welcome back to our Storm Team 8 special event, Preparing for the Big One. I'm meteorologist Emily Skidema. Severe weather can happen at any point of the year. And while severe weather is always dangerous, you can protect yourself and your family. You just need to be prepared. Your home is one of the spots where you can be the most prepared. You know your living space better than anyone, so there are fewer unknown variables that could come into play during a severe weather event. If you live in a house, make sure you go to the lowest level possible and away from any windows during severe weather. The basement is always going to be the safest spot. If your home doesn't have a basement, still head to the lowest level away from any windows. Something like an interior closet or a bathroom will work well. Once you're in your safe spot, there are a few things you might want to have with you. Flying debris is what harms most people during a severe weather event, so something like a helmet can help to keep you safe. If you don't have a helmet, a pillow over your head can work too. Another thing you'll want to have in your safe spot is an emergency kit. Things like a lot of water, non-perishable food, batteries, any medication, a NOAA weather radio, a flashlight, any cell phones and chargers will come in handy. For those of you who live in any sort of mobile home, preparation is going to be extra important. Unfortunately, mobile homes are very susceptible to storm damage, so they are never a safe place to be during a severe weather event. It's important that you leave the mobile home and find shelter in a safer location. To stay safe if you live in a mobile home, make sure you're aware of the weather forecast each day. Have a weather app or a way to receive alerts. If it looks like a day when the weather could turn dangerous, start thinking ahead. Plan on going to a safe place nearby. This could be a friend's house or a business that you can get into any time of day or night. Head to your safe place when a watch is issued. Don't wait for the warning. A warning means severe weather is imminent, and it might be too late to evacuate at that point. If you are still in your mobile home when severe weather is bearing down, the best thing to do is still to leave the mobile home. Get into a ditch and cover your head with your hands. Now you know how to stay safe at home. The problem is you aren't always at home when severe weather strikes. There are a few reasons why the beach is a less than ideal place to be during severe weather. You're likely going to be a ways away from the safety of your car or a shelter, and also you might not even hear the sound of thunder over the crashing waves. To stay safe at the beach, make sure you're watching the sky in all directions. If you notice dark clouds getting closer or you see any signs of lightning, act quickly. Get back to your car or the closest enclosed building. A picnic shelter is not going to offer much protection. A car is also not a safe place to be during severe weather. Tornadoes and large hail damaging winds, they can make a simple drive turn dangerous very quickly. If you can delay your trip, that's going to be the best move. If, however, you are caught in your car during severe weather, try to find a sturdy building and get in there as soon as possible. Never pull off in a highway overpass. Ditches and culverts should be your last resort, and if you are in the ditch, crouch down and cover your head with your hands. There's a myth that tornadoes never hit urban areas, and that's simply not true. If you're outside in a downtown area, get into the nearest open building or even an underground parking garage. Keep in mind, if you're hearing thunder, lightning could strike at any second. Severe weather is always something to be taken seriously, but if you just have a plan, you'll be able to keep yourself and your family safe.
Next, we'll show you the new technology Storm Team 8 is now using to keep you safe when Preparing for the Big One returns.
back to our Storm Team 8 special event. I'm meteorologist Terry DeBoer. You know, it wasn't that long ago that meteorologists on television didn't have access to radar technology at all. In fact, 60 years ago this year, 1961, was the first time a television meteorologist was able to utilize radar technology on TV, and how the times have changed. In fact, here at Storm Team 8, we have access to the most powerful radar technology, which allows us to identify the potential for the development of severe weather, including tornadoes. So we watch for a shear marker, which pinpoints the area of rotation within a thunderstorm. So we watch for evidence of the rotation developing. We also watch for indicators of exactly how strong that area of rotation may be, weak, strong, or extreme. And when we see this kind of an indicator, we know that severe weather is a definite threat to parts of our viewing area. We also watch for something that is kicked up from the ground, a debris ball. A part of the radar technology actually allows us to analyze what is coming from the surface, so we know that if a tornado is creating a lot of debris as it passes through a community, that there is definitely a lot of strength indicated with that area of rotation. We also watch the radar scan to see how much of a threat hail is. We know that hail develops in a very strong thunderstorm because you have strong updrafts and downdrafts. And so in an area of intense hail, we know the potential is there for a lot of damage, and certainly the potential for some very strong winds to develop as well. In fact, we're able to analyze the development of strong, gusty, damaging winds within an area of a thunderstorm as well. And that's something that we will continue to track for you as we get into the heart of severe weather season. And of course, probably the most important thing for you to know is every day at Storm Team 8, we watch the potential development of severe weather threats. Not only the kinds of weather that we may be tracking, but also the time frame, including when the best threat is for severe weather. By staying connected to us here at Storm Team 8, we will help you and your family know when severe weather may be a likelihood of developing across the area. Now we're going to check in with Bill Steffen.
Thanks, Terry. We hope this broadcast has reminded you that powerful tornadoes can happen here. But if you are prepared, any storm can be survivable. Right now on WoodTV.com, we have information about how you can make a severe weather plan and links to where you can buy a life-saving weather radio. And make sure to download the Storm Team 8 app and turn on notifications to get alerts when a storm is headed your way. Thanks so much for joining us, and from all of us at Storm Team 8, stay safe.
Summer is nearing, and we're all hoping to get outside and enjoy it. But will the weather cooperate? Storm Team 8 unveils what to expect, from climate trends to water levels along the lakeshore. Streaming Thursday morning on WoodTV.com.